Musk is going on war with Germany on Twitter. Silicon Angle reports that Tesla's chief executive Elon Musk has gone on war with German court today after it was ruled that the company should be barred from using certain terms in advertising. Hi, this is Bhartiya, and welcome to another episode of TFIR's weekly wrap with Mike. Mike, first of all, welcome to the show. I love your T-shirt. It looks like Sputnik. I don't know if it is. Oh, I was wearing the same shirt, to be honest. Not the same one, but a different one. I just took it off and wore my TFIR, Superman shirt. But I actually, no offenses, but mine is cooler. I'll show you if I can find where it is.
I got mine direct. I got mine directly from Bart and George up at Monktoberfest when he was giving away one of them.
Likewise, and since you mentioned it, I have their new Dell also, which I'm reviewing, and it will be published next week. I love this machine because they have fixed a lot of issues that were there with the hardware. So, well, back to the news.
I got to tell you, I'm convinced that we're Apple guys, right? We're Apple people. And
I don't think we're Apple guys. We love. I had a very good interview discussion with Blair yesterday, which is about this whole brand loyalist. When you said we are Apple guys, and I was like, because this is very important. You and I are fan of this company, not because we get paid to do that, but because they make our life so easy. We can be more productive, more efficient. So when you're saying Apple guy, I just want to make it clear for people. We don't get paid to do any of that. It's just we love those products. And that's why we wear t-shirt like Sputnik or whatever it is. Yeah, please go ahead.
And that's the thing is that Apple ecosystem just sort of works. But for me, when you look at design, right, at product design, Apple's always been, at least with laptops, Apple's always been the one, right? Nobody's come close to touching it. And then you start to see some of the stuff that Dell's been doing with their hardware, with the 13-inch laptops, and with Sputnik, and with some others, and you're like, if it only ran Apple's operating system instead of Microsoft, that'd be pretty damn good.
I know. Apple doesn't license their OS, but I fully agree with you. And I mean, people do criticize, but the fact is, I have been hearing, I read a lot of stories, and my good friend SJV, and he would always say, Apple's dying. But the fact is, if you look at Apple platform, we don't actually, to be honest with you, you and I, we don't use Apple's OS. We use application. I am a huge fan of Final Cut Pro. I am a huge fan of Logic Pro X or any other, of course, their hardware. I mean, they make the best trackpad in the market, Nobody can, Surface devices, they do have good one, but the functionality that I get with it is awesome. I mean, that's why I have 3 of these, which I, plus the display and everything is great. But if you're as an as a video editor, I mean, the amount of updates that FCPX gets, or the way Logic Pro X is kind of industry standard, those people don't realize those reality, and they keep bashing Apple for all those reasons. But the fact is, you and I, we love it because it is a very powerful tool in our hands. It's not be just like the glossy look and feel. So yeah, you're right. If Dell could put an operating system which is apt, they do with that with Ubuntu and other Linux distribution. But no offenses, after being Ubuntu user for so long, I feel that Linux is not at all suited for desktop work. If you're a basic user, all you want is web browsing and all those things, that is good. Or if you're a researcher where you want to churn a lot of data, then it's good. But for average desktop user or gaming, I'm sorry, but no, it's not a platform. I mean, Linus Torvalds agrees with me that it has kind of failed as a platform. But I fully agree with you with Dell. And a disclosure that my first machine was a Dell machine. And the reason I loved it was that when something broke, they told me that you can repair it yourself. In other cases, repairing yourself means voiding the warranty. And they actually sent somebody to my office. Usually you have to mail it or ship it or take it somewhere. They used to send technician to your home or to your office to fix your issues. So yeah, I fully agree with you that they make really good hardware. The OS, yeah, that is. I mean, I love Windows 10. It's a great platform these days. It's a rolling release kind of version. You don't have to worry of Windows 11 or 12, but macOS is macOS. And I'm excited about the ARM powered Macs. They are going to be really, really as powerful as my iPhone is. That's how powerful the ARM based or Apple Silicon based Macs will be in future. Anyway, back to the our weekly news wrap. Tell me which story you picked for this week.
Well, not sure if you heard, uh, but Twitter got hacked this week.
It's not that I heard. I almost donated $1,000 to Bill Gates so he can match my donation in bitcoins.
My Bitcoin's either going to be worth a lot of money or zero soon. So a hacker or hackers got access to Twitter's God tool, apparently, hijacking the accounts of people like Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Joe Biden, a who's who of blue check marks. TechCrunch's Zach Whitaker was all over this story. And while a lot of folks focused on the crypto scam part of this, the reality is that this is likely something bigger than security. I'm hearing murmurs from some that this is a death knell for Twitter, and it's time for people to start looking for a new platform, Mastodon and others. Not sure that I agree with that, but I do agree that this changes things moving forward for a lot of folks.
I have been reading about it, and I have some of my suspicions, which you may or may not agree, which has a lot to do with politics also. If you look at a lot of accounts that were compromised, were either I would not call them liberals, but liberal leaning accounts that were compromised. Number two, the death knell was also propagated more on conservative media like Washington Examiner and all those publishers. Because last week we talked about a new platform that had come out for conservatives who are like all flocking to this platform, and suddenly there is a big hack happening on Twitter, and that too, those kind of accounts compromised. So I do feel that it may be politically driven as well, to just attack Twitter so that more users move away from that. And as far as death knell for Twitter, I fully disagree with it. Actually, Equifax hack was the worst one, which affected actual people, where people's health. This is just you hack somebody's account, most high-profile people's account, and you're asking for Bitcoin or spreading news. That is not as bad as getting access to your credit card details. So I think it's just overblown. It's and these kind of hacks. I'm not saying that this is bad, but I have my concern that one is political driven, and second, it's actually not as bad as it looks. Yes, it is bad, no, but if you look at Yahoo hacks in past, where Yahoo did not even disclose to people, where your credit card information was compromised for years and years. So I have my own suspicion about this, and so yeah, that's what I have to say.
To that point, though, when government policy is conducted by Twitter and
Hmm.
the platform and somebody that is verified can be spoofed, right, or impersonated, we got lucky on this one.
Yep.
Wars get started because of what is put on Twitter, right?
Right.
The potential is there
Hmm.
because of how it is used. Now, for you and I that use it for technology, and for the vast number of people that do, or the vast number of consumers, which I think often goes unnoticed, the number of regular non-tech people that use Twitter for entertainment, even, right? It's to catch up with their and to stay informed with celebrities and fans, schools, others, right? That it has become a utility, right? It has become an authority. So when that trust uh, gets compromised, what it becomes is, like you said, this is not just about cryptocurrency, right? This was more not just that kind of hack. This is a longer game, potentially a longer game, vulnerability that hits beyond technology and gets to some of the social and political aspects of our lives. So this is going to be one that I think people are going to need to keep an eye on. I think we're going to hear a lot more about this as it goes on, but it is definitely something that is more significant than what we think.
Right, right. I fully agree with you. Since we are talking internet, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella says that broadband is a fundamental right. He was given an interview to CNN, and that's where he said that broadband it should be a fundamental right. And there is the reason that not he cites, but we see is that I mean, if you look at this ongoing crisis, this pandemic, businesses are moving online. In fact, only those businesses are surviving today who already have cloud strategies in place. Those businesses are booming. Even the grocery store where if you used to go for Indian grocery shopping in physical, even they started offering home delivery, and I was so happy. But if you don't have access to broadband internet, you cannot access all these technologies. You cannot run your business, and that is the case with most of the rural America. Most Republican led rural areas don't have access to broadband internet, to be honest. And the businesses and residents of these areas cannot access or cannot participate in online activities like remote learning. Their kids cannot do online schooling, they cannot do remote working, or access to financial services or healthcare services, where most of those things are moving online, and where you may need access to a camera where you can talk to a provider. And according, you may be shocked to see, but according to the US Census, nearly 15% of American households still don't have home internet subscription. That's crazy. And the situation is even worse for low income earners. So to kind of solve or address this problem, Microsoft is working with framing farming cooperative land or lakes to address this issue by bringing broadband and other internet services to rural communities in almost 19 states where land or lakes have farms. But this collaboration is actually going beyond broadband access. They are also bringing in Microsoft's AI and ML plus edge computing devices on these farms so that farmers get access to real-time data and so that they can make decisions which is suitable for their agricultural practices. So I think this is a very good initiative. I mean, because if you look at, we are talking about Facebook, Elon Musk, Google, Amazon, they have grand plans to have satellites to bring internet to the world. What Microsoft is doing, it is a very ground level to address a much more realistic, immediate, and pressing issue.
The pandemic, like you said, what's happened has exposed, at least in the U.S., and I imagine it's global as well. It's exposed how critical infrastructure is, and how inaccessible and broken it is. Right? These technologies do need to be more accessible. Right? Access needs to be more accessible. It's data, it's information, it's the equivalent of of electricity, and that is something that, well, I mean, I'm sure once infrastructure week happens, that'll all happen, right? Uh, every week's infrastructure week apparently, but Microsoft and Satya has done just, I mean, he's just done a really nice job there, overall, of using the power of a company of that size, to do good. Now, is it all benevolent? No, they're a business. But I watch companies like Microsoft or like an IBM or even Benioff at Salesforce, who recognize that they play at that they have a responsibility beyond the companies that they run. And I think that is an important thing. It's going to be fun to watch Microsoft on this. I love that it's Land O'Lakes on there. There's got to be some sort of butter joke that can be played with this. But it doesn't surprise me, because one of the hottest areas for IoT was farming. Right? We've got, there are number of articles about self-driving tractors right now. the ability, the requirement, the ability uh, to get better yield out of crops because of better sensor technology, right, and better data analysis. This is all exciting, but that needs that needs the infrastructure. It needs the access, right? It needs those bigger pipes that go through there. It needs the when we talk about edge computing, it needs the ability to spread this out to the edge efficiently, right? To get it into different fields, to smaller towns, and it goes beyond Microsoft. This is stuff that people like Verizon and Comcast and others are going to need to step up on as well, which then gets you into all the political stuff, and regulatory issues, and people battling over access, and all the fun stuff there. Love the story. Love what Microsoft is doing here, and I actually had that on my list earlier, and saw that you had it and beat me to it. So I'm glad both of us saw that as something hot. So Bloomberg reported that Google is apparently on a mission to buy a multi-billion-dollar stake in India's Geo platform. With trade wars and politics what they are, like we were just talking about, putting a push into India is probably the last region in the world for Google to grow at this point. All the cloud players have been amping up their efforts in India recently. I know Linode has, as well, looking to grab a slice of the Indian market. It's huge, right? With billions of users at stake and an incredibly large and untapped small business market. I mean, the small business market's insanely huge over there. Expect to see more eyes on what's happening in India, beyond what we've just seen now.
Right, and the interesting thing about India is that India is skipped the whole landline, and they just moved to the service segment. If you go to villages, small villages, everybody has a cell phone, and the literacy is a big issue there. So all these white voice activated services, they actually help, because people can, if you cannot read and write, you cannot send text messages, but you can call up and talk. So that's why it is becoming quite popular, and all those multimedia services are also there. So actually, if you look at subscriber base, India and China, they have much bigger subscriber base to to the internet than the US has there. So it is a big market. It will be seen how this involvement of Google pans out, because India is also becoming a little bit more careful with external cloud providers. Because Amazon is also pushing back, because the problem with these mega corporates are they go and destroy the local economy and local market, and they just take over, which could be disturbing. And that's why, it doesn't matter whether you like or hate China, but that's what they have done really good, is to be independent of from these global, superpowers. They just have way too much control. And since we are talking about IoT, UK wants to make IoT more secure. Uh, they say, the missing S in IoT is of security. So, and I mean, that's why nowadays companies choose to use the word edge computing instead of IoT, because IoT has such a bad name associated with that. So, but what UK is doing is they're addressing some core issues that we have been talking about for a very long time. And what they want to do is that they're working on a plan which will actually ban IoT devices if they do not meet certain security standards. According to ZDNet, the proposals from the Department of Culture, Media and Sports and the National Cybersecurity Center have set out three standards that manufacturers will have to follow in order to sell their products in the country. These rules would require, number one, that device password must be unique and not resettable to any universal factory setting. If you remember 2 or 3 years ago, the whole big massive DDoS attack happened, where the whole Amazon went down a big chunk of, and the reason was that the default password was same on all those devices, and there's no way you can actually change the password. So you have light bulbs which are connected to your internet, and suddenly your whole network was compromised. So they are fixing that problem. Number two, that manufacturers must provide a public point of contact so anyone can report a vulnerability in the product, which is also very critical because most of these IoT devices, they are like sell it and forget it. Most of these devices come from China. You buy this webcam and then there is no update, nothing as such. You are on your own. And which is also the third point, to set or state the minimum length of time that the device will receive security updates. It's interesting. We are talking Chinese company. Actually, I when we bought this house and we are going to buy smart devices, and I was planning to buy a smart fridge, I contacted both LG and Samsung because when you buy a fridge, that is going to be there for as long as your house is going to be there, 20 years, 30 years, I don't know. So I asked them that, hey, for how long my device will get updated, because it will be plugged into my network, and that network means everything. So once somebody compromises a fridge, they will compromise my whole network. With my iPhone, with my iPad, with my Mac, I do know that I can keep it updated. If it is not updated, I'll take it out of my system. They don't have any policy whatsoever to tell you. They have warranty for physical, but they have no policy whatsoever which tells you that your device will get software updates for this period of time. So they are kind of trying to fix that. I don't know how applicable will that be in realistic, but I think US and other countries should also come up with very strict policies around security of IoT devices.
It's a great point, right? And you get to, as you were saying that, one of the things I heard was they don't, somebody like an LG doesn't, they're making a refrigerator and haven't quite realized that the percentage has changed of 80% technology, 10% or 20% refrigerator. And they need to act like they need to act like a technology company more so than than a refrigerator company, than an appliance maker. The last story I saw, Fast Company reported that LinkedIn launched a new feature that lets people record the pronunciation of their names to add to their profiles. Right now, it's only available on mobile. This is important because our names are central to our unique identities, and saying them correctly is the first step in connecting with, respecting, and appreciating one another. A company called Name Coach, which has been offering pronunciation technology like this to the education sector for a few years. I think they've got hundreds of high-level Princetons and others that are using it. They were also in the news this week, like LinkedIn. To raise awareness of racial injustice, Name Coach is providing full name audio files for a partial list of Black Americans killed by police. I don't think anybody's really seen this yet, but I stumbled on it. It's intended to support those who are encouraging the public to hear and say these names, to help recognize their humanity and memorialize them. It's also intended to support the correct pronunciation of these names in national discourse. What's interesting to me is that the names are sourced from a list maintained by NPR Code Switch, as well as from requests that Name Coaches got from the community. And then they're researched by the Name Coach team, and where possible, reflect the way family members pronounce the names. I'll drop a link to what they're doing in the comments, but this is where technology and humanity start to blend, and where they should blend, where technology can actually help with some of the things that are happening in society. I know Praveen, the founder at Name Coach, has been on this for a while. It's something that is personal to him. Who's at his sister's graduation, her name was mangled by the commencement speaker. It's why he created the company, and now to see LinkedIn doing it for sort of a work setting as well. We're going to start to see these large libraries, these large dictionaries of correct pronunciations of people's names, because it matters, right? There's significant research on what it means for people to actually hear their name said correctly. And I think a lot of us, and I would imagine you have as well, have gotten, senior names mangled as well. And it's like, okay, it's you get used to it, and you shouldn't have to.
You're right about it. My name get kind of butchered a lot of time. It also has to do with the with the region also. I used to live, I mean, I spent a lot of time in Europe. We used to live here, and because of the language, some they have those sounds in their alphabets, so they can make those sounds. The English alphabet is 26. They don't have a lot of sounds, so even my wife cannot say our last name properly because those sounds are missing from the language itself. So teaching these are really important. At the same time, it also depends on how much effort you really want to put into it. So sometimes I have, like, I don't want to say that, but here sometimes I watch video interviews from a lot of our friends. They don't even put any effort to correct the name. Like, they won't take, like, usually when I do interviews, I talk to people, hey, how do you say your name? I try to get the phonetics right. But I have seen people, they Anand, it's Anand, not Anand. Take some time to learn the name of that person that you are going to spend 20 minutes with to talk about. It's really frustrating, and it's also disrespectful that you don't even bother to get the name right, especially when you are going to talk, like people say Satya, they don't say Satya, Satya, or somebody says Satya. Just spend some time, listen to how Satya is said, and say that. So I think this is really good, though it has nothing to do with hardcore technology. It's more to do with people and culture, society. But I think this is a very good effort there. So, I want to close this one on a much more funnier and a lighter note, and nothing could be more fun and light than talking about Elon Musk. So Musk is going on war. Musk is going on war with Germany on Twitter. Silicon Angle reports that Tesla's chief executive Elon Musk has gone on war with German court today after it was ruled that the company should be barred from using certain terms in advertising. I mean, I know you can guess what I'm talking about, but the court ruled that Tesla has used misleading advertising statements in regards with what its autonomous vehicles can do. It's an industry sponsored organization that deals with anti-competitive practices, and they are the one who brought this case before the courts. And they have said or argued that terms such as full potential for autonomous driving and autopilot inclusive should not be used in any of Tesla's advertisement, claiming that such terms might mislead the German public to think that these cars are fully autonomous. It said that using such terms could compel people to sit back and relax that, the car will drive itself. Now, Musk hits back and says that Tesla Autopilot was literally named after the term used in aviation. He also said that, what about Autobahn? I mean, if you know, in Germany, the highways are called Autobahns. But you have to understand, in German, auto means vehicle, mobile also. So when you say Autobahn, it means a highway for vehicles. And when you say autopilot, is the pilot for mobile, it's not. But in English, the autopilot means everything is automated. It's, you don't have to worry about sitting there. So I mean, we have known Musk, he likes these kind of, arguments, whether it was the case in the Thai, the guy who saved all those kids and calling him pedophile or something like that. But I kind of, if you look at the Tesla's history, a lot of accidents have happened where people have lost their lives because they relied on autopilot. And that's when those happen. So Musk should actually take these things into consideration, because you're not talking, when you're talking autopilot in aviation, you're talking about professional, the pilots who know what autopilot mean. Here, you're talking about average users who don't have any clue about these terms. They assume that autopilot means it drives by itself. That's what it means. So I think Musk should mellow down a bit, and he should start making these kind of compromises instead of fighting back every single time. And yes, unless and until Musk can sit in a car, not in the back seat actually, not touch the driving wheel at all, and drive all the way across the state, they should not be using this term autopilot. That is my opinion. I love all these technologies, but you should not put people's lives. I mean, somebody lost their life because of your autopilot. A life was lost. A father of a family was lost. A son was lost. Brother was lost. Colleague, a whole life was wiped out. Why? So I fully agree with the court's decision that these terms should not be allowed to be misused.
Whether it's a term or not, right? And let's face it, this is part of the growth and of a market, right? And that's what we're talking about with autonomous vehicles. And there are certain specific criteria for stages for autonomous driving and self driving cars that the industry and that regulators have um, uh, agreed on. But if you buy a Tesla, I'm assuming you're not just getting in the car, that you're going through a little bit of an orientation session to understand what the car can do, right? So whether the marketing says this is a fully autonomous car is one thing. If it says, "Hey, sit in the back seat and let it drive you to the next place," like the Jetsons, that's a completely different story. Uh, there are there's a user responsibility in this as well, not just marketing. And the reality probably is that we're getting to a point, and that's probably why this is an actual story and why these moves are being made, that we're crossing over that sort of gray area into, oh, so now this is really what an autonomous vehicle means, right? We've now hit the marketing side of this rather than just the technology side. So uh, it's important. It's a Musk story, so that's always fun. I'm sure that his the stuff that he's got flying in space is autonomous. I mean, look at it. Look at some of the rockets. They're just touch screens at this point, right? Some of the stuff that the astronauts that just went up. It's getting exciting, and it's going to be messy. Innovation is not supposed to be clean. Growth is not supposed to be pretty. It breaks things. It creates things out of that, and it's part of our nature and part of the industry and part of how things happen, that you've got to you got to work through these things to find out what really is the reality at the end, and then we start that cycle all over again.
Mike, thank you so much once again for sharing these greatest stories, and I look forward to talk to you again next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Swapnil.